Okay, welcome back everyone to the 452nd Knowledge Seekers Workshop here on Thursday, September 29th. And Mr. Kesh, are you ready to begin the second half of our program
Yes, here? If you have any questions, anybody.
Well, we have a question from Peng Peter to start off here. I'll remind our attendees first that you can raise your virtual hand, and a couple have come up here already. But I'll go with Peng Peter's question, who came up first in YouTube, who says, if a stone has a soul, can the soul of man and the stone together create a new soul? If that's the case, I wonder what people will think of marriage of the future and cross species and so on.
Marriage in the future on the physical dimension between the races of the universe, not all of them impossible, but some of them will be impossible in the physical dimension. But in the dimension of the soul, it is possible. Don't forget, if you go back, and I'm sure you can find it on YouTube, there are people actually married to a stone or an object. They take them to bed, they just start, there are quite a large number of them. And they live with them for years. Has the soul of the stone touched them? Or the balance between the two has created that balance? We do that in a controlled way because we don't want to be called a freak. We do it with our animals, with dogs and cats. We do it, especially women, with items of jewelry. They put it on for life. They never take it off. There's not something there. Every time they look at it, they admire what they have. So it's not an unknown fact. It's not something that what would happen is, would that condition create a new cycle of life? And would it be visible to us? Would it be tangible to us that we can compare it? Or it'll come to the point that we get touched by the soul of the fields, and we are aware of the presence of soul, but we cannot give what we call physicality to it. This is not something that it might happen. We see it, just go on the internet. It's very interesting how these people live with objects. Like a partner. And it is part of our life. It's not something unknown. And it will be something which happened. What will create out of it, if they decided, that's a different thing. When I listen to the gentleman, you hear him, most probably they appointed Monday to record, when he explains how he could feel, and especially if he can make a live presentation, something can do with the right recording of the voices and movies together, that how he felt the object. And if he fine tunes it, most probably he can tell you exactly the taste of it and how fresh it is. Did he feel the touch, or did he feel the soul? Oh, what was object in the mind of the other gentleman on the other side? You go to a fisherman in a fisher shop and you say, I want such a fish. Can I taste it first? Would he be able to give you the soul of the fish? Taste if you like. And then you see, if you really like to take the fish, and the taste of pleasures of his soul being touched gives you more pleasure than eating it. Would we do window shopping of the souls? Or would we do the window shopping of lives? If you've been to Porto in Portugal, some of the restaurants you go to, they got fish tanks in the walls, and you can choose the fish. What you want to eat. It's very common in China. We go to the fish market. You choose your fish, and then you choose your restaurant, and they cook it for you, your chef in that restaurant. If you go to Sanya in South China Sea, in Sanya City, there is such a supermarket of fish. Every fish in the Pacific Ocean, which can be captured, can be eaten, are in fish tanks in the market. You choose your fish. And then next door to it, they built tons of restaurants. And you say where you want the fish to be sent to, and the chef in that restaurant will cook for you. Because you chose your fish. Go to Sanya and see the beauty of China. And you understand there's much more to this country than anything else. But look at, would you walk around and pick up all these fishes to see that physicality on the plate, the way another man chooses to prepare it for you to enjoy that physicality? Or would you just walk and enjoy their souls? It will not be hard when we see the souls. We need no fishermen. And then we learn more about ourselves. And then we learn more about how the next cycle of life on this planet will be. Any other question?
Well, we have two hands up here with folks we know and love. John Blimmen is number one. Go ahead, and then Dean will be next.
Hello, Ms. Kesh, can you hear me?
Oh, I can always hear you, John. How are you?
I'm fine, thanks.
What's new?
Not a whole bunch. Can you help me with this question by pulling up a whiteboard?
You want me to open a whiteboard?
Yes, please.
Okay. I cannot do it on this system. Just wait 1 second.
When you're able to pull that up, if you could draw.
Yes, I'll be there in 1 second. Just wait, please. Okay, got your whiteboard.
Perfect. If you could draw five circles in a row.
Let me change the color. Then everybody can see. What color would you like it to be?
Oh, it doesn't matter.
I'll give you red.
Good.
Yep.
Okay, in the first circle, we're going to put hydrogen GANs. So if you could put an H in there.
Yep.
In the second circle, we're going to put deuterium in a, I'll call it crystalline state. Crystalline
Yeah.
deuterium. Next one,
Yep.
we're going to put tritium GANs. Next one, we're going to put the GANs of uranium. And then in the last one, we're going to put the gas from the methane gas from your system. So it's not GANs, it'll be the gas, the methane gas from your unit.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So in each of these, if
What's the abbreviation for methane? Does anybody remember that? Anyway, I just put methane there. CH4 it is. But
CH4.
CH4.
Yeah.
yeah. Hold on.
So, once we are able to let the soul out of the cage, and the soul can connect to each one of these balls individually, or these materials individually, just like when you create another soul with two entities, if you put the soul with the intention into, let's say, the H for starters, and we merge with the soul of the material inside the ball, and we put the emotion of love and with the intent to create a higher form of this hydrogen, for example, in the first one, then it's my feeling that we could create, and we have to create the heartbeat to make it dynamic, that we could create a plasma field, which would be a light field within each one of these. And the question then becomes, if we were able to achieve that state, then what would each of these balls be able to provide to us? For example, the first ball might create the ability to have an energy field of this, like a sun, where we could generate heat and energy from it. The second one, my feeling is that maybe you can create entire cities with it. The third one, I'm thinking also you can create probably entire city, but with a dynamicism to it. In other words, rather than being static, it become more. With the uranium, this is where I kind of
Wobble.
It's of a higher order, but I'm not sure what it is that you would create with you if you had that field of a dynamic plasma that's connected to your soul, that you're able to, I'll say, manipulate or interact with. And then the last one, I'm thinking that what comes out of that machine is a different form of plasmatic energy fields that maybe has a different characteristic to it than the GANs materials. So could you talk to those and tell me what you think?
Talk to them.
Am I on the right track?
You see, if you envisage the number of galaxies and the stars and the number of universes, the possibility of a life in such a state is possible. But the point is, what condition environmental allows such a life? And then what characteristics will this life will have? it's in heavy pull. So this, what you described here, shows the life will be somewhere near to the center of the galaxy. That heavy pull can hold on. This structure, what you chosen, is a type of life. The 4 elements of amino acid. Central gravity to hold on to, and enough to link into the universal energy field through carbon or carbon 14. So this life is extremely heavy from gravitational pull. Location immediately is somewhere in the cities, what you call in the centers of the galaxies. We see these kind of heavy element centers more towards the center of the universe, even heavier than this. You have to have that pool of fields that it can be holding on to your position within the center. These kind of lives are extremely intelligent. These type of combination allows, in a way, life nearest to the energy fields of the soul of the creator. Uranium is it's like a hydrogen in what we call periodic table. It's not a heavy element, but that's how we can put it. Combination of the fields makes life a different way. Such a heaviness of fields, if you are in the center and outer boundaries of the galaxy, creates you to be aggressive. Take, because you have a heavier gravity, it's like a cancer. You look for the metal, which can pull the amino acid. When you look at the cancers, you can, that's why in Keshe Foundation, we don't look at the blood test, we look at the elements. This life is extremely intelligent. Doesn't matter how or where it takes shape. That comes from stability of what we call deuterium, but the agilness of the deuterium. And so you have an intelligent, active, and if you live in this kind of environment, as a new race I put down, on this planet we will call them super intelligent people, active, because the information on the sub-elements brought in through the interactions is a vast pool of information. Most probably human race will have no level of understanding of this life, because it's far beyond its imagination and physical dimension, but its soul will. Creatures created in this condition should be very flat by this. and they are set to absorb huge amounts of radiation from cosmos. That comes from the broad spectrum of the division and the number of the neutrons within the U-235. To sustain it, you need to absorb a lot to keep the energy fields of the 235 in position in what we call where it should be. I can imagine how a creature will live, where it could live, and what we need to handle through its soul. Receives the more powerful energies from the center, and it pulls more powerful energies from out. And it's a, put it this way, human race will be a speck of dust in this environment. Even that is too much.
So is this CH4 methane, is that in a plasmatic state when it comes out of that machine?
What do you mean?
You know, the unit that you showed us that makes the methane,
Yeah.
is that plasmatic methane?
Yes, we always say that.
So if you were to utilize that, and maybe I'm mixed up a little bit. I'm thinking that we put, you know, our soul to elevate this material, but maybe we call forth the material from the universe of the soul of CH4 methane to merge with the gas that you created to elevate it. So you're not creating a person or a being, but you're creating a conscious material that has additional capabilities. Because when I'm talking to H1, I'm not looking to create a person or being. I'm looking to create a elevated material.
This is what you call, this is what you put in there as a CH4. CH4 as a characteristics as a matter state only has a certain values in combination with the Earth's gravitational magnetic field. But in space, as a plasma behaves totally different. And if you have created the shell around this to hold on that it creates a soul, I can envisage how the system will work in an interactive base. In an interactive base, if you look at it, this is the cycle of life. You have a hydrogen, you have a H2, you have a what they call H3, and then you have a CH4. You can see the base and you can see the top. This is an extremely active, what we call amino acid. In the body of man, this will create mayhem. 100% death within milliseconds. Just by the fields of it interacting within the structure of the skeleton. You have 16 times power of plasma in that direction. Ratio here is different. And the same ratio here is different. but about the same. This system will try to topple to create a base between these three and use CH4 as a feeder at the bottom top. You usually make your star formation that way. This will work this way. So it creates a different dynamism. It creates a different structure in the whole group. You got to understand carbon now becomes that due to 3 8 in a way if you look at it. When you look at the plasma, I was talking about this to our knowledge seekers recently. When you look at the plasma in the size, follow the volume rule. This could be 1 centimeter. This could be 2 centimeters. But do you know what is the difference in the volume? It's huge. It's not the ratio of 1 to 2. When you see a plasma of this size, the energy in this is vast compared to the energy in this, because it works on the gravity field forces. But in a matter state, you work on a volume. This is why when you look at the electron and proton, proton is so agile, electron is so agile and so small, but so dynamic, and so much more energy to give than the proton itself. We say is so much ratio 1 to 2000, while the other one has the other way. But in the plasma, the tighter the material is, the more energy it carries, the smaller it gets. But it creates a bigger field that it can capture the proton. You have to understand the whole process and not just by look at the dimension of physicality. You have to understand the dimension of plasma. As we say, it's not the size which counts. How much energy is in it, which affect it. I always said, I used to joke about this when I was a student, I still sometimes do, is you have a little toddler who's like a bullet, goes everywhere. And you have an old man sitting in the middle, trying just to watch and catch up. Even though he's much bigger and older than the little. It's the way the electron works. It's the way the energy transformation is, and it's the way the cycle of life in our process of existence has been. When you look at the plasmas and look what soul they create. Extremely powerful. So your creature, wherever it is extremely tiny, highly intelligent, and quite active. And the soul,
that explanation.
and the soul it has, it'll be amazing. You have, if you understood this part, now you have to understand one of these characters here is 230, not 60. And then you can see the whole dynamism of the system.
Thank you for that
Sure.
explanation.
Trying to catch up with the speed of rotation, not to be pulled by heavy gravity. Then you can see the speed past the speed of light, 100%. Any other question? A new creature. What's next, Rick?
Okay, we have Dean with the hand up here.
Thank you, Rick. Good morning, Mr. Kesh. Thank you for that. The new race of mankind. Mankind is.
It's not the race of mankind. This is the race of John.
I know where, yeah. So mankind was a collection of intelligent gases.
That's
anyway,
all we are.
That's all we are. Yes, I know. And as you get older, you come to understand this more and more. Mr. Kesh, going back to something you spoke about earlier on, the world leaders. The world leaders being present within the exhibition centre. We've spoken about this before many times. The actual position of a world leader walking into the building. Would it be that, Mr. Kesh, that the knowledge seekers, the UC, and all the beautiful souls that carry this knowledge, being part and inside the actual room itself, would have the feel strength to that the world leaders would not need to actually come into the room?
We can satellite them. There's not a problem. But we have to show the change. Because if we don't do it, the reason I put it that way is, if we don't do it, then coincidentally something happens. You know, the human race, this is what I said to the knowledge seekers who come in. Once you leave the center, your new life just starts. And that new life is going to be joyful for some and hard for the others. And some go back to ignore it because this is how they were brought up. You'll find out your wish is my command. In a way, my command is your wish to the soul. I want to know what my sister is up to. And then the sister calls, because instead of dialing on the phone, the soul has made a call, your brother wants to know what you're up to. And it's, oh, I was just thinking about you calling, and you called. So we learn a new way, and a lot of knowledge seekers will have this problem. But the more you practice it, the more you interact with it, the more it becomes. You know, nowadays we have a command drive, or on your mobile phone, with different names. Apple has Siri. You say, Siri, what's the weather today? Siri, can you call so and so? Now, Siri is your soul. That's what you got to learn. No apples. It's all bananas. So we can do that. But it has to be the Siri of all the human race collectively wanting peace to change the world leaders. I can do. as simple as drinking a glass of water. But what would a human race? Oh, this guy changed. Wait till the next one comes. You have to change the soul of the humanity, not just a world leader, and that's part of it. If you look today, in the past months, we've seen how many of closest people to Putin have been killed. And we see how many people closer to him, but opposition has been killed. Accidentally falling off a ship, one falling out of the window of the hospital. I never understood how people can jump out yet. We've seen the American doing today. The Chinese scientists, we've seen the others doing it. And how come this thing suddenly started? Nothing happened 6 months ago. None of them killed themselves. Would we reach the soul of those who actually want or plan these things, either the world leaders or the others? And this is the process of life that we got to learn. There are two ways open to us, plus three actually. Now you have a mobile phone, you can call electronic. We can do it physically. Now we learn the communication of our inner energy, we call it the soul. It's faster than mobile phone and does not carry the emotion. So when you tell a president to change, you can call him on a mobile phone, or you call him through the soul and change his emotion. So you have to decide, and we can do a lot of things, but humanity has to do it on its own.
Thank you, Mr. Kesh. So to get humanity, the whole of humanity, to vibrate and to be a plasmatic condition where they all contribute the same, is that something that can be done through a social structure, or is this an interaction of the soul of man?
It's a combination of, there's not a single solution. It's a complex, human race is a complex race. It's a complex, what they call chemical mixing pot. First of all, people have to see, I told you yesterday, or the day before, I want microphones to record people inside the system. Very soon, we'll take cameras inside the system to see how the soul manifests themselves, to see how communicate with each other. Man has to see it. And then we see the discussion. When I listen to a lot of these recordings, prior to you getting your camera and microphone in their hand, I see so much, I get so much information that you don't even get it on your recordings. Some of it comes through the knowledge, some of it comes through the emotion, some of it comes through understanding of the soul. You sit there, you put your camera, you take a physical picture. They sit in front of me, or I stand in front of them. They talk, but I see the soul. And I know how much of the information they give me has matched to the soul of physicality and physicality. What do I need to change in there if I need to? Majority of the people coming out of the system, they don't lie. Because standing in front of me, I see both. Feel the emotion of it. And we have people who come deliberately to prove that they they cannot be touched, or the system doesn't work on them. I had one this week. Because with it not confirming, not working, I say I'm more, oh, but I say, oh, my soul doesn't work. But doesn't this, I want to know what you cry at night with it. So it's us bringing amalgamation of all together to create new race of leaders. That all of us are leaders, not just one or two and a few with a big bank account.
Thank you, Mr. Kerr. So what you spoke about when people have this thought and then someone phones them, we've all experienced this, or the whole of human race, I think, experiences this. So we all know that this conscious thought has a field strength that can manifest and touch other souls in on a soul level. So we all have this. So it's just about bringing about a field strength on this beautiful planet that brings it to a position where
no, it's the wrong way. It's the wrong way. The right way, I think, should be the recognition of it. When you recognize this power, when you recognize this potential within you, use the right way, then you can bring those changes you want. Realizing that that's the key. And it's how we perceive it or to fit us. One of the knowledge seekers sent me a picture recently, past few days, where there's a conference of the nuclear, what do you call it, annual conferences, whatever, in Vienna. And I never understood, when I looked at this picture, what Bill Gates has got to do with nuclear industry. This man is so power hungry, and now he sees, I can be something. And then what would he influence? He has a called complex structure with him. But why do we see a man who started in a garage, built up through his money the power base that now he influences all of our lives through our computers or whatever, gone into pharmaceutical to affect all of us through that? What has it got to do with nuclear industry? Which end of the atom this guy ever understood? That now he's there for what reason? And I call it, I can't even put a name to it when I saw the picture. But what is the game of this soul? And where are we going to see problems? Because wherever he's gone, he has created problem in his past. To own, it means to get involved. To be in it, to get involved with it, it means with the money I have, I dictate. Didn't he work hard enough some years ago trying to take over the Keshe Foundation? It didn't work. He sent his protege, the other guy, trying to butter us up to take over the Keshe Foundation.
Why does Mr. Keshe? Why does he need so much energy?
He doesn't need energy. This guy has a different agenda. Own. I have to own, because the first thing I took, I stole, so I can steal everything. You understand?
Mm-hmm.
So he stole the technology of Microsoft from the Apple boys. He got away with it, so he's become thief by nature, because I can get rid of get buy everything now. I have that money, I can do. how he financed the biggest one of the mass murder guys to become the head of health organization. Anybody who calls about the ethic doesn't put such a man financing and backing unless he has evil intentions. And we saw what they did us in the past 2 years of humanity. God help man with this word picture we see in public.
Mr. Kesh, can we not change this condition with our thoughts collectively as one? And
this is why
this
is why we're setting up this for leaders. People have to learn it. They have to feel it. And they have to bring that change with it. And it has to be done by being part of it, being inside it, testing it, tasting it, and seeing the change of it. If you remember some years ago, we asked you to deliver the peace message to the world leaders, or you went to the presidential palaces and blah, blah, you did a lot to do. Now they come to you by your decision as a collective knowledge seekers, that you deliver the same things on a piece of paper or an email directly to the soul. I promise you it'll work 100% better than your emails, all the letters you give to their office of the president, the kings and the prime ministers of your country.
That's so powerful, Mr. Kesh, what you've just said there. That
it is a reality. You have to.
I know it's the reality, but when mankind really understands this, through the ethos of the foundation, through the teachings, it's gradually getting out. However, when people tap into this, like to this very conversation right now, and they actually understand their true, the beauty that they have, then maybe we will, not maybe, in this moment we have this condition where we have no need for this constant conflict that happens for a few to have more. It's ridiculous.
You see, when all men be equal in the dimension of the soul, then the soul of physicality decides how this equal position will be achieved as the physicality is comfortable with it. You know, the ex-Shah of Iran used to have a habit. He used to dress as a common man and go to shops, to go to bazaar and everywhere, without anybody knowing him. And he used to do that quite often. To see how his people love him, how his people react, how his people live. And very few world leaders have done this. The ex-Shah of Iran used to do this habitually. He used to do it to see how people are. And every now and then he was spotted. People realized who he is. But what changes these things brought to his soul? And why do these people need to do this? To understand, to be able to be part of. And so it is what we want to be. When we call the end of kingship, oh, he's anti-Bolshevik, he wants, no, because we're all kings. When our souls are equal, when we understand the same thing equally in the soul level, is the physicality, it could be handicapped or whatever, who's the king? can we live with somebody which at soul level is the same as you? How come when it comes out in the physical dimension, he should be extra? A few European kings and queens go public, they take a public transport, they live like others. But still carry that stigma of being a king or a queen. But they try to be as normal, live as normal, and be part of the society to understand the society. The Queen of, I think it's Denmark who's doing this now.
Mr. Keshe, a true leader, a true king gives, becomes a giver. Just is not there to take from others and to receive. It's to give.
A true leader or leader live amongst his people, not separate than the people. And we have not had many of them in the life of the man. You don't lead from the front. You lead amongst, within. And always stay knowledge seeker, because you learn from every step. And that's how man will become to be. Understanding the knowledge of the creation will overtake all man's greeds for physicality. Any greeds will be fine. Any other question?
Yeah, thank you very much for answering my questions, Mr. Keshe, and thank you for bringing this knowledge forward. And
I answer enough of your questions on the floor whenever it comes.
I know. Thank you, Mr. Keshe.
You got to understand. It's usually 2 or 3 of us on the basement floor when we do the flight test. And if you have visitors, they're all upstairs. And it's Dean and me and maybe a couple of other people. We got nothing else to do. We just walk in this 700-800 square meter of property, waiting for the next change in the room or next person and the next case. And somehow here and there we ask questions or we do something or we pass part of information. But you gotta understand it's 7, 8, 9 hours sometimes in the same space, walking and tasting. So to see what happens inside and what comes out of it. It's just like expecting expecting father being outside the delivery room, see what comes out of the room, what kind of animal will come, what kind of creature will appear.
Interesting times to follow, Mr. Keshe. Thank you.
I hope so. Any other question?
Thank you.
Okay. We have a couple of questions in the Q&A here from Carlos. It says, good day, Mr. Keshe, Rick, and the knowledge seekers. On the table in front of the witnesses, we have a star formation. I'm not sure what he means by that exactly. Could you talk about these MagRab fields and which GANs are used? We appreciate the guidelines. On the table in front of the witnesses, we have a star formation.
What is this one? Can you enlighten us?
It's probably a Spanish or Portuguese translation of witnesses in front of the. Is it the diagram, perhaps, on it, or is it?
I don't know what it is. What is it talking about? Which witness?
star formation. You had a drawing of the star formation, perhaps.
Can get somebody get to his soul and find it and bring back the message.
Yes. If you could clarify, Carlos, or we'd like to speak. Raphael's here. Maybe he has something to say about that.
Hello, good morning.
Hi,
Hey, Raphael.
Hello. So Carlos wrote here in our group, he's from Brazil. He would like to know about the formation that you have in front of the table of the people who are witnessing, who are giving their testimonies in the flight system. He noticed that have some guns in front of these people, of the German couple, and they are in a star formation. So he would like to know what kind of guns you have there, really in a star formation.
These are placed, I tell you how they're placed. They're placed more or less by the lady who cleans the center. Every time she cleans, she picks them up and put them somewhere. So there is no formation. We just put it there. Initially, when we did the first setting, it's just random. And it changes every couple of days when she cleans the television section of the recording. So there is no formation. This has been brought up from upstairs from the, what do you call it, the showroom. And it's just to have something. Usually you have beautiful sculptures or something. And these bottles are a sculpture of science. There's no pattern. I'll ask the lady who does all our, what we call, cleaning, how she formed them. And she's not a knowledge seeker. Any other question?
Thank you for clarifying, because there's probably lots of speculation about that. Okay.
I think Dean moves them more than anybody else here and there. Because with Dean, everything has to have a right lights and everything, right position.
Yeah, Mr. Kesh, yes, I'm always moving the lights, and yeah, those ganses on the table. I've noticed myself. I don't know why, but you've seen me many times. I go and sit there, and sometimes when I'm waiting, as you say, we've walked around in circles, and we're waiting for people to come out of the experience. And I go and sit, and I see myself sort of gravitating around these different ganses, and obviously receiving some energies from them as I sit in different positions. It's I've observed myself doing this. Yeah, it's an interesting position to be. Yeah.
Yeah, we just walk around, we move things. We've got nothing to do. We've got a bunch of people just hanging around. We move things till the next soul comes out of that room.
It's quite amazing, Mr. Kesh, seeing the physicalities there, and then knowing that the soul is unlimited, and knowing that they carry this wonderful, beautiful, incredible energy, and they're all being drawn like the magnet is drawing in, and this field strength is drawing in the souls into this position, and they're taking position, and then as you say, and then they're becoming satellite souls that are then going out and spreading around the beautiful planet Earth, this wonderful field strength that will bring about this wonderful condition that we have all in this moment have, and we shall have.
One of the things which comes to me quite often is that this is a knowledge that is, I call it a revolution in science, in technology. With the way we came and we got restricted by what I call certain governments, and for their own benefit, has allowed us to bring out, develop the technology amongst people as they call underground scientific structure, which when we show the first transmutation, everything else will blow out itself into total different direction dimension. So you people travel from all over the world to go through and see and feel an apple, an orange, or apple pie, or whatever. But the implication of when the technology is, as it's coming out, will be so strong that no government can hold it back. It's what we call knowledge growing openly, but kept under the surveillance of not being in public, but it's still growing. When you look at the number of people who come all over the world to Linz and how they come and the cultures they bring with them, we have touched every nationality and race on this planet, and our knowledge is what in there. And they are developing it, they are bringing it out, they're producing materials with it, they are doing all sorts of things with it. I have to stop for 1 second and come back in and receive the urgent message, please. If you can play a commercial for 5 minutes, I have to respond urgent.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Kesh. All right, let's see what we can come up with here. Five minutes of silence while Rick tries to find the 5-minute commercial
be
video
better.
here.
5 minutes of silence. Yeah.
Maybe. Let me see. I'll find something here that's I've already played that, not. That's too long. Okay, might have to have Salamia sing while I find the correct video here.
I'm back, so if you don't mind it,
That's good.
I'm back in. Sorry about
Save the
that.
day.
Yeah, save the day. Saved by the bell. No, something was urgent, which had to be done urgently. Any other question?
Hi, Mr. Kesh. I was waiting for you. I'd like to ask you if you'll be in a political power, what you'll do to get peace right now, taking into account the international context. I had a dream with a Secretary General of NATO, deputy, not the prime, and he asked me in the dream why I am silent and why I don't find a solution, because he's waiting for some solution from us. So I make clear my voice, and I'm asking you because I am so interested in your wise solutions in the physicality, not only at the soul level, because at the soul level we know all this. If you have some ideas, we will thank you from the bottom of the heart. Thank you.
Entering politics is not our job. I've been pushed in past few months, especially from the sources who know what we do, to enter politics in Iraq. And especially past 2 weeks, I get more pressure it's the time, it's a mayhem, you can go back in and you'll find people who respond and they're looking for somebody to change. That's not our job. I'm not a politician. The changes, I come from a structure, I understand the Iranian politics and the wealth and whatever goes with it. But politics is not my place. I'm a knowledge seeker. And I bring the changes through the knowledge. And seeking for those who appreciate knowledge and they can use it to expand the peace and what we call unification of mankind. This is not the first time I've been asked to enter Iranian politics, and are backing me with billions of dollars. Always said, a man who enters the politics has ended his life. Because in the world of politics, you're as good as long as they get their way for what they want, and then you're a dust. So the world of politics has no meaning. But with technology and science, we create the politics. I always used to say, I have many, many friends in British Parliament and the House of Lords and in the hierarchy of the British. I lived there for 30 years and they're totally different levels. And I always used to tell the politicians, and they used to laugh. I remember going to the House of Commons, meeting one of them, and then I was with a couple of lords on the dinner table in one of these gentleman clubs, they call it. And I always told them, you are politicians because of us businessmen. We find you, we tell you what we want, we support you, and when you go in there, you're our servants. So knowledge people, businessmen, scientists who can influence it, actually put the politicians in the politics. If you can't pay for the advertising, if you can't pay for promoting a politician, politicians go nowhere. So as scientists, we decide, as men of influence, we decide the politics of the nations. But this time, we as scientists, collectively as knowledge seekers, we decide the politics of this planet. Scientifically, which is more powerful than actually going in there and sitting in the parliament and just shouting and nobody hears you. As many of you know, I've said it before, a ticket collector in undergrounds of London, because she inherited some money from her father's village in Ghana, became member of the Senate, Parliament. And one of the first things she did, she called me when I was in Ghana, she says, Mr. Kesh, can you tell me what I have to do as a member of Parliament? Where can I make the maximum money? I might be here just for one session. Can you show me where I can steal and get as much as possible? Now you see. And then you have a president of a country who's been a security man in August in London. And now he's the king, or president, or was. So, terms is short. With technology, we can change everything permanently. And I'm not in the world of politics. If I wanted to get in the world of politics, the Iranian people have offered me a very lucrative deal. Come in, there's a mayhem, bring people together, you can do it. It's not my job. I criticize the government, I criticize the leaders, but that criticism is a positive criticism for not to go over there and is listened. One of our knowledge seekers was telling me, Mr. Kesh, everything you have suggested to the officials here, we see it happening. They're changing things as you advise. but we advise in the background to the other sides of the government too. I don't see what is happening in Iran the correct way, but you got to understand, if they don't do what is they're doing now to the population, they won't be in power. They're fighting for their life. The Iranian leadership is not the riots on the street that they're trying to scupple. If they take over, they don't have life. We saw the same with the Shah. They came in the same way. You don't remember the riots, the children, the students on the street? And they know the way they came, they're going to go out if they don't kill as many as possible. Is the survival. They're not going to suppress. And either way, many lives is involved, and I've got nothing to do where the life stands to be lost. Politics is not for me. I play enough politics with my teachings and changing a lot of things, but no, let the world leaders do what they like, because there's life. I've always said, they're here for 1 term, 2 terms, and nobody will remember them. They become a number, person number 40, blah, blah, or 10 or whatever. My technology will last for the life of humanity and beyond this place. And that's the true politics. Then you can bring the true peace. Let them battle for the spoons afterwards. The plate with the food on it is with us amongst us knowledge. Any other question?
Thank you, Mr. Kesh.
Any other?
Yes, we had a question in the YouTube from Spearfront, who says there's millions of knowledge seekers in the world who cannot afford to go to Linz and assist with the changes that Mr. Kesh suggests. So,
first of all, we can accommodate millions, so no problem. The whole structure is set in a specific way. One day I'll explain. And soon we will explain. And even this, I had to go off the line and come back, was because of that change, that structure change which Keshe Foundation will bring. And it needs to be done step by step. There's a principle, I always live by it, and it's part of my life. When you give something free to someone, they have no value for it. And when you pay for it, you respect it and you stick to it. And when it becomes part of your life, you know how to handle it the correct way. And this is why we put it that way. People come, you see people come in as the right to be as knowledge seekers. So we're there because I am, and we've seen so many of them, and the mayhem they have created. And we see people who come in, they value their work for what they get and what they bring. It's not that you cannot afford it or it's expensive. It is always been what you pay for, you respect. And what is given is just another, what I call piece of toilet roll. People don't have respect for what they don't pay for. So this is a human nature. In the future, it will change. It'll come by the service, not by paying. But that's a different thing. Any other?
okay, question from the Brazilian community from Alexandra. Good morning, Mr. Kesh. I would like to understand more about the opening of the cells. How would this opening of the cells that you mentioned be? Could you speak and define in more detail about this process? What happens when this opening of cells takes place? what is required for this to happen with the cells? Does it require a special emotion for this to happen?
Yes, it does. Human race could create this emotion of separation of the cells as they do with amalgamation of the cells. When you amalgamate them, you create cancer. When you create it, you can create separation or expansion, as Friend said in the recording. When we create that fields of the cells together, a father creates a cancer for himself, or a mother for herself, or we create in different ways of it. Man, within the structure of his DNA and RNA, has a chemical creation and control of the use of that chemical created through emotion. And early men used to do it as a mammal. If you had a tail, you got trapped under a stone millions of years ago, you didn't die. You created that condition, you released the tail, and you made another one, the way some reptiles do. It's not exclusive of them. So to do that, you have to create what I call dilution of cells. Cells are magnetic fields. The way I told you many times, you can put a hand out and create a gold in your hand or light. You through the same emotion, it creates separation, expansion of the cells. You have to learn this to be able to go through transmutation. And then bring the fields of it that according to the environment of creates the physicality of. I transfer your soul cannot be touched. I transfer your soul of physicality, which is the energy of you. But when I transfer you in a physical dimension, the soul of the man, the soul of physicality of the man, in the interaction with the environment, dictates how the matter state, or what we call life state of the fields of the energy, will reset themselves. How suddenly with 2 hands and 2 arms, you'll have 4 arms and 4 hands on the moon or another position. It's still the same cell combination, still the same energy, but condition of environment. So it's a natural process. We have it in our RNA, with DNA. We just control it through technology. This is what I keep on saying, and I've said it many times. Up to now, it was theory. Now it's a technology, because it can be replicated. We can make machines to do it. So we can always open it up and do it somewhere else. I can put you in a left unit, change the environment on the right side, and get you as a fish out. But the problem is I have to find a water tank to put you in it. But your problem is, was it your wish to become a fish? We'll test this in the coming time. The new machines allows us to do this. With these machines we have now, we have a lot of limitations. Once the 2 new units and the other 2 vertical units come in, then we have a huge versatility in moving, in creating condition of the destination. We can create condition of China and send a man from London to China, and he'll come out as a Chinese. He would understand the culture, he'll speak the language, and he understands everything, and he doesn't, in a way, the soul of him inside says, what's going on? Since when I learned Chinese, but I can't speak Chinese, I become looking Chinese. It's interesting, listen to what I said earlier on. The lady tells us she holds a mirror and she cannot see herself in the mirror. Through the expansion of the soul. A couple came in yesterday. That's so beautiful. I didn't have much time with them. I have invited them to come back in, but they live a life of, and the things they do with the plasma and gas is amazing. It was a pleasure to see them and see how they have evolved the technology to suit them. And she tells you, I hold the mirror and I can see, or I see in the mirror the light in the back of my head all the time. She says, I could see the light in the machine. Or the gentleman sees a coverage of that vision is not the true interaction of the soul. These are what is to come, and how we see the new technologies will give us a chance to do. If the world leaders know they cannot hide anymore because their souls bring them to justice, none of them will do wrong. And none of them will take up the banner of leadership because they're scared of what the souls might bring to them, or maybe the souls bring them to. It's in the writing of Baha'u'llah, bless his name, he says, the time will come that no one will take up the crown of kingship. As all men will be equal. And now, through technology and understanding the power of the source, we understand the beauty of the message. Because now we see as soul, we're all equal. When a leader says to his soldiers or those who execute his power, literally plow the men in the streets and throw them away like a bin, like a dust, like a rubbish. That's the time when there is no kingship. That's the time when you lost. And this is a message I got from Iran in the past couple of weeks to the armies. When you treat your citizens that you can be plowed and thrown away, you have to understand you must be very desperate to get in that position. You don't need to get into politics to change. They change it themselves with their own lack of understanding of what's going to happen to their soul. You don't need to drown a man so you drowned. Anyway.
Mr. Keshe, Dean here again. May I ask you a question about, in the image that I see on the screen right now, I see this materials enhancement unit behind you. Is this technology been brought forward to be used? Is it available?
Of course. I think you took this picture, or somebody took a picture. And the manifestations of it is the gas power unit we show. We convert energy to gas. The gas, methane, and the others we show is a true use of this technology, but in a mini version.
How's that coming along, Mr. Keshe? Is that taking position?
We have we have produced it. It's just a matter of we're hoping the past couple of weeks to be done, and there were technical problems, and they had to get help from outside to make some of the new materials to make it secure. And I think I asked yesterday, they need time to do it. The power unit is not producing the material, is the technicality of the new structure. It's not technology problem. It's just getting it right that it stays there, because it's coming to be very powerful. And what do you call it? It'll be shown the minute they finish with it. We can produce any kind of gases. It's just that the team in the lab have to get every day do one thing and something else goes wrong, trying to bring a new technology in with it. But in principle, as we shown, we can produce anything we like. And that's a conversion of fields into matter state. And then, because it's produced in the gas state, then the matter state has to decide how through the soul of the man is going to be used. It's very, very interesting. We haven't understood what this gas unit is yet.
I sort of understand a little bit of Mr. Cash. So
It's a system with a soul.
Okay.
If you understand what it is.
Yeah. And the implications for humanity once it's released?
Many knowledge seekers have already placed order purchasing in this. That's the implication of it. Is yes, implication will be very huge, and things are not happening the way it should to happen. And then I look at it in a way that it's not the time for it. It needs a few bit of extra time. It's like what we all participated to support this funding, that the next change will come, and it's just taken nearly 11 months now we come to it. But you lot know about it for past 4 or 5 months. Many of you contributed towards it to come and around the foundation funds for it. And it's not happening, because I sat and I looked at it yesterday. And I said, what the heck not? And then I looked at what this is supposed to do, and what we talk about, this gas unit in the background. And then you hear about the explosions in the pipeline number 1 with Russia and Germany. The implication of that pipeline is the last cord you cut off the connection between the astronaut and the station. People have not realized what it means, this blow up of a pipeline in, what do you call it, between Russia and Germany in the past few days. Whoever has done it, we should look at it in a different way from Keshe Foundation point of view. With the technology you're putting back in, it makes, and going through German government and others, would stop kingship to fuel and energy. It pushes for these new technologies like ours to come into public, because they're expecting, understand, the government's 130 billion has been promised by British government to support with the fuel problems. Now we see more in other European countries. Germany is bending backwards. When I'm waiting for one tipping point. And when that tipping point comes, it was even when I went off the line, now it's part of that tipping point. When that tipping point comes, I will change the running of the nations in Europe with a flip of a finger. And you knowledge seekers in Germany, in France, in Italy, will be spearheading this. You'll be spearheading this beyond your imagination. And I explained this to a couple of knowledge seekers, what I'm going to do. But if it would have happened 6 months ago, it would have had no influence. If it happened 2 weeks ago, it still wouldn't have been there. The time is coming for it. As part of the way we do the space technology, we get into that tipping point of the technology to bring the change. And whoever blew this pipe out, in a way, is whatever stupid thing they've done with it, but it's part of the overall soul of the change to come. It might sound stupid to you, but it has so much truth in it. 5 times, 6 times, some nations 9 times the energy cost compared to last year. Food crisis because of the energy prices gone up 3, 4, or 5 times. People can't afford it. Can't afford to heat. The pipeline is cut. Can't afford to feed because the prices are going beyond. And if you lived in England, like Dean, many English people will tell you, this is a talk of the town every winter. How many old pensioners who live on the pension die in England because they can't afford heat, or they have to live on the blankets and in boxes in the winter time because otherwise they can't afford food. And now the Western Europe will plunge into it. Asking me who blew the pipe are the Americans. Asking the Germans is the Russians. Nobody will be benefited by this pipeline blow up than the Americans. Now the West has to rely on all the fuels, gases, and whatever, and the food which comes from US. They've done it in the Second World War. Now the whole of Europe is encountering it. And understanding that British policy transfers into American policy as their soldiers, then you understand BP will control everything. So, 2 ways. And I'll explain this. We are waiting for that tipping point. And I'm sure you knowledge seekers in the rest of the Western Europe will thank you for the knowledge you carried. Just waiting for that change. In about 30 days, 60 days, we'll, if it happens the way we want, we'll bring it up.
Mr. Kesh, many souls, many people that are in a position where they're experiencing discomfort because of the conditions being created, would ask the question: if the technology is there now, why would it not be just brought? Why do you not bring that intention forward in this very moment? And
you did not. You did not respect us when we gave you the magravs. You did not respect us when we gave you the others. Bunch of abusers. So we choose the time. If you're not hungry, I put the most beautiful dish in front of you. You're not hungry yet. You will be nothing. When you're hungry, I put a piece of old cooked meat in front of you. It will be the most delicious food. And the West has to go through this. Has to go through this. It's part of the change. None of the things you see happening is just coincidental.
So the West has to go through this to pay back the balance? Is this what you're saying?
No, not the West. The whole world is paying for this. The only place you get the free gas is in Iraq, as I call it. But the whole of the humanity is going through this change. The guy in Africa in the jungle has no care how much the tomato is going up and what heating is going to be. Gas is going to be 10 times. It matters to the Western world, and Western world is keyed up for that change to bring and to change. One of our knowledge seekers from Australia called me a globalist. No, we are a playlist. We know when we play that is fair for everyone. And we learn it from you. And I've told you many times, there's not time for it. And the thing is not going to happen. I was telling you yesterday, what's supposed to happen yesterday about 3 o'clock didn't happen. Today, we're waiting for it to happen. It's not the right time for it, because when it comes, it'll be a switch time. And I know we're preparing everything for it to be in that switch time. It will not happen one day earlier or one day sooner when the rest of the structure is set up by the souls who are there to do it. That will be, you give the knowledge we gave you to what all of you have done with the backgrounds. Nothing but to harm us. So this time we make sure you don't harm yourselves.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Cash. Thank you for those questions.
Isn't it 12:20? Is there any questions or shall we call it a day?
Sounds like you'd like to wrap it up. How about one last question from the live stream? It's a Pope question. What do you think would be the reason for the Pope suddenly to command all money from the Catholic communities all over the world to transfer all funds back to Rome? Is that a valid question, or is that an exaggeration?
What do you mean?
I've heard rumors of that, or some sort of regrouping of the finances.
Has the Pope been to casino last night and lost everything in the casino? But which
Trying to
casino
pay
did you
up.
go to? Yeah, what they call it, the slip has been called in.
Yeah.
I haven't heard about this, but you have to understand these people on the name of religion do a lot of other things. We have a good connection into Vatican. And we hear a lot of things which are not supposed to be heard most of the places. You got to understand why, if they do it and how they're doing it, or they want to collect before it comes to the end of them, at least they all have the money in there. There is I don't know if you've seen it or not, there's a picture of wealth in Vatican. And you have a pile of coal you put in the fire, put the coal in. There are pictures from parts of Vatican which gold coins and jewelry and items are stashed away like coal. You just send the bulldozer to see how much he brings into the shovel to take it out and spend it. Literally, there are places in Rome, within the Vatican, which gold which you respect and you put it on your ears or necklace or so much value, they shovel it. And now you have to ask how much more they want to shovel. As I said many times before, every time you see the Pope going somewhere, you see the plane of the Pope landing, walk around the airport and see how many cargo planes have landed to waiting to be loaded, go back to Vatican. When the Pope goes to Brazil, when the Pope goes to what do you call it, Far East Asia, to Thailand and the rest in that part, there are 6 or 7, 10 sometimes cargo plane, jumbo jet cargo planes sitting on the runways, waiting for as the gold is transferred. And that's the way Vatican collects money. If they call everything to come in, maybe the Pope has lost a little bit too much last night in the casino.
Okay, that's
Yeah.
close.
There is another side to Vatican, is that first of all, Vatican doesn't hold much gold reserve because he has transferred it all to Germany, to Berlin. Secondly, they see problems in the Western Europe, in the Catholic syndicate, what we call EU, and they need that to back up the second round of poverty and the problems that the Christian community doesn't change. There's a big problem, a huge problem, and I was explaining this yesterday and the day before. In the West, people who live in Asia and the rest, they don't understand this. It's beyond your comprehension. In the West, Western Europe, or most of the Western Europe, we call it what used to be Western Bloc, not Eastern Bloc. There's a large community of immigrants to whatever they come in. We've seen it clearly in the last two elections, especially in Italy. The far right has taken power. If the time goes rough, the first people they blame, as we've seen in the election of Italy, will be the foreigners, people who are non-Italians, non-Germans, non-English, and the rest. And we'll see they become the target of a lot of harsh time. And I see that coming up. And Vatican encourages these harsh times. And to do it, they need to siphon money into the natives in a different way that allows them to become racist towards the others. This is 100% of the card. We saw it in the elections in Italy and the past 2 or 3 elections around Europe. One of the fairest conditions governments, countries will see will be United Kingdom in respect to, even there's a lot of racism in it, compared to what's going to handle and is going to accept to stand by. Secondly, England is a oil gas-rich nation, will not suffer like the rest of Europe as such. But you will see this coming up in a very short time. Vatican, the way, if you remember the crisis a few years ago, when the island, the Portugal, the Spain, and then the Greek went into a financial nosedive. Suddenly, out of nowhere, everything was good because Vatican didn't want to bring change in the Catholic Union of the European community. And then they paid for it afterwards. We saw the gold going to Berlin, to Rothschild. So they're collecting for that loan to collect later on in a bigger portion to go to, when they go to Berlin. That could be one of the things, but I haven't heard about it, but it's part of the way they do it. Thank you very much.
Okay.
There's something, something I've heard about. A number of you artists are approaching Keshe Foundation and to do artwork and send it to us to sell or to promote in the sale in the shop or in the Keshe Foundation store. We are looking at all of this. We have accepted a number of paintings from these artists. We are looking for sculptors who use gas technology in their sculpture. Artisans is anything which you use it that can be done, and we support you. And now we start selling, and even this week they received commission on 4 paintings to be done by our knowledge seekers. So if you want to carry on with what we started, we can support you. I know knowledge seekers were sending their pictures or paintings through the post now to come to Linz that is going to go for display, and now we have to open it because these paintings are becoming more and more. And other sculpture work, any unique work you do which works with the gas, it doesn't need to be wood or glass, it could be anything electronic which actually works, and the artisan, pottery and that kind of thing, we can support you. And it's something we have expanded into to support the knowledge seekers to have a living from knowledge they have. And there are new pictures I think you will see coming up in the next few days into the shop as the paintings arrives and it gets categorized into the things. And if you want any painting to be done, or we have a sculpturist who wants to sculpture something with the gases or whatever, you make something handmade, still there for the Keshe Foundation to support. Thank you very much for today. Thank you very much, Rick, for everything in the background. And we'll see you next week.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Kesh. Once again, this being the 452nd of the Knowledge Seekers Workshop series. Been almost 9 years now of these continuous every week workshops. And congratulations on yet another. And thank you very much for your work that's happening, both in the foreground and in the background. Okay, that'll wrap it up for today's show. If there's any further questions that people have, please carry them over until next week. And speaking of next week, we have coming up, let me get the calendar arranged. Yes, we will be into October. October 4th will be the One Nation, One Planet, One Race for World Peace and Justice. And that starts at the 4 p.m. Central European Time. Okay, I think that's it for announcements. And thank you all for attending today's workshop. And we'll see you in the next public teaching. We'll go out with our, what's now become one of the icons of our movement, the Flight Enhancement Spaceship Unit music version. And we can do some clapping and dancing to end the show with. Bye for now, everyone.